Hello, and welcome back to Escaping Kerbin, the sixth and final part of our Minmus Mission Mishaps series. We're just going to go get right into it. We have a rescue craft that we need to send to get our pilots back home. In the last episode, we landed our science center, a big ol' tall mobile processing lab. There it is. We did some engineering to move the solar panels around, and we are now about to discover what the real problem with our rescue is. So here we are, we're transferring fuel. Trying to get, because apparently our tank sprung a leak in our liquid fuel, which was fortuitous because the only kind of fuel we have for our nuclear engines is the liquid fuel. So here we are, just trying to fill it. And we're going to find out soon what the problem here is. So I decided to try to speed up the process. We're going to drain them all at the same time. So that way it will fill up the tank in question as fast as possible. It's an easy tip to do that if you're trying to evenly drain from all your tanks. The best way to do is open up all these windows and then choose the tank you want to fill and select in, and it will draw it from all the windows that were open. So now you see I filled the tank, but when I stopped the process, we started losing fuel again. And so our escape craft is no longer going to be working. If we were to try to take off from here, we would run out of fuel before we even got into orbit of Minmus, and then we would have no fuel to come back and land, and we would of course destroy ourselves. So we're going to have to think of something else. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting the fuel back into the tanks before I lose it, because by leaving it in that top tank, all it's doing is venting into the vacuum of space. So we might as well keep that fuel in case we wanted to take the science lab somewhere else. So there we go. That ship is dead in the water. We're not going to be able to do anything with the escape craft. However, it has life support on it, so I feel that there's no need to separate it and just let our Kerbals give a little extra snacks. So now I'm going to go ahead and get our engineer out. I had the engineer sitting in this capsule because there wasn't enough room in the escape pod. And just gracefully falling. Trying to grab a battery because there's no batteries on the mobile processing lab itself. And this was when I was still thinking that I might be able to fix the sprung leak. So I'm getting my engineer over there to see what he can do. I'm very happy that I landed so close, or as close as I did anyways. And it's not too much of a hassle to EVA RCS pack our way over. So now I'm looking for the repair kits. And it's not an easy way to transfer over things all the time, but that one worked out pretty well. Wow, look how tall this thing is. Definitely not the tallest thing I've ever launched while playing Kerbal, but definitely the largest thing we've launched in this series. So yeah, I'm trying to use the repair kits on it, but since that leak was sprung due to the Dang It mod and not stock Kerbal or anything like that, I needed the dang it mods repair kits, and I didn't bring any of those. So I'm switching back to the mobile processing lab right now to see if I have any options for repairing it. See, yep, here's our notification that there is an issue, but it doesn't, the window doesn't give me any kind of options to do anything about it. So go ahead and get them back into the main craft. So now nobody is hanging out in those ships back there. Alright, so now we're going to go and work on our rescue craft. So we've actually already built it. Can't remember if we built it in the last episode or we built it off camera. I might have built it off camera, I believe. But this is our rescue craft. We're putting some explosives on the lower stages to make sure that we don't leave any space trash around. At the last minute I throw some Separatrons on there, but we end up not using them, and you'll see why. And here we are taking on liftoff with our strongest engine combination yet. We've got a Mammoth and two Pilas under there. And we're just picking a nice trajectory angle to more efficiently take off our gravity turns. This is a big floppy rocket though, so we gotta be careful not to jam over too quickly. And our side boosters flame out, and we separate them cleanly. Those Separatrons are wonderful for making sure that the side boosters don't come crashing back at our lower engine. So I plot the maneuver to circularize, put it into flight computer, and execute. And it's a bit of a long burn, but we use the majority of the burn on that lower engine. We didn't have to use our transfer stage all that much. We didn't need to put the explosives on there, but it's always fun to see. But of course that is not getting any of our funds back. We should think about in the future, rather than exploding those lower stages, hooking them up with either parachutes or some way to land them and hopefully recover those costs. I think that would be smarter. That is, of course, using the stage recovery mod. I highly recommend it for almost any playthrough. Eventually, it'll get... career mode can get you bogged down with funds, especially if you're doing missions that aren't set with contracts that you won't get paid for. It's sometimes good to just recover all the money that you can. So our inclination is correct, so now we are just setting our Minmus injection burn. And let's go. Let's get ready for our maneuver. Three-minute mark. So we time warp to the actual node. And fire. For some reason, we're not getting a plume from this. I think that might be a bug from waterfall, but not sure. But we don't get any kind of visual indication that we're actually thrusting, except for that little light in our engine. But at least we know that. And this is a long burn, so we're gonna go ahead and do that off camera, and we're gonna go ahead and switch back to our Minmus stations. So now it's time to start setting up our science and our Minmus base. So we're going to go ahead and check out our scientists. Both of them are 2-star, so that's nice. So we're going to go ahead and get Tam and Kerbal out. And it's just before sunset. We have just enough light to see by. She still needs to throw her flashlight on, of course, but at least we don't have to do it in the dark. So now, these experiments that we're setting up are from the Breaking Ground DLC. And they're a way of getting some passive science from any celestial body you want to have them on. In our previous series, we put some up on Kerbin, and that way we were able to get some science for every discarded piece of our rocket. When it would hit the planet, it would give us some science for the impact. Getting some lights here, especially because it's getting late. And that's all that she really needs to do. She just was supposed to set up the experiments and the control station. And now we are going to get our engineer Dilcott, and he's going to set up the rest. Because when you have a high level engineer, I should just say, the power of the solar panels is directly connected to the level of the engineer that places them. So the higher the level, the more power the solar panels will produce. And the more power the solar panels produce, the more efficient they are for our station. But we are still going to set down quite a few of them. Having some trouble with my inventory management. There's our first solar panel. It deploys without any problems. And so yeah, we brought 6 with us. Oh, a little 360 or 180. But yeah, we brought 6 of them with us, but we're not going to put all 6 down. And we also brought 3 communication dishes. I don't know if the range stacks on them, if you can have 3 and it will extend the range. But we decided to put down all 3 because we are going to have more than enough battery or more than enough solar power for all these experiments. All the experiments and the communications, I should say. So now he gets his RCS pack on. And he goes back to the capsule to enjoy a nice warm snack. So now coming back to our rescue craft, we're actually approaching Minmus now and getting ready to do our capture burn. And once again, the engine is firing, even though we don't really see any proof of it. And this too was a long burn, so I went ahead and just fast forwarded it to right there. So now what we do is we change our focus to be that of Minmus, and we time warp until our Minmus base is on the light side. The reason why we like to focus on Minmus instead of the craft is so our camera doesn't spin around wildly trying to chase the craft around the moon. We can just look at the moon and focus our view from there. So now we're plotting a burn to change our inclinations to match up with the base. We do change our inclination fairly early. It does work out, like we don't have any problems with it, but you'll see we will have to make an inclination change again, because I'm looking at the trajectory line where it is right now, but by the time we get to the other side of the moon, the Minmus, the base will have moved. As you can see here, it's already starting to stray from that line. So it would have been a little bit better to do the inclination burn a little bit closer to the station, so that way the rotation of the planet doesn't change our trajectory too much. You see how it's already off now? So we go and we plot some more, and this burn is going to be bringing us down to the planet, to the moon, to Minmus. And this burn doesn't take too much. It's fairly quick. And we use our trajectories mod to get an idea of where we'll land. And we warp ourselves just to get a little bit closer. We use M.A.C.H and we bring up our landing information. And already we can spot off onto the distance our target. Learning how to accurately land in a specific location is a great skill to build in Kerbal Space Program. It'll help a lot in the long run. There's not just for creating off-world, habitats, off-world science stations and whatnot, but as well as like trying to get specific biomes or completing specific contracts. So now when we tested this, our Separatrons, once we fired them, caused the thing to fly off into a different direction. And while that didn't matter because it got the debris away from the craft, it wasn't exactly what we wanted. Right now we're going to try to use that discarded stage to impact the surface, and then hopefully our ground seismographs will capture it. I don't know why it didn't, but that was the goal. And so that's why we decided not to use the Separatrons. So we had a little bit of freezing when I opened the landing legs, and I believe that's because the game was trying to calculate the explosion of the lower stage. And it was also getting everything into physics range, the science station, the two downed crafts. So had a little bit of lag spike right there. But nothing too bad. I was very worried at the time because I was worried that by the time the game got back together, we would be at the surface, or we would have missed our suicide burn. And once again, not too trusting of M.A.C.H's suicide burn countdown. So I started a little bit early. But as you can see from the trajectory of mod, we're going to be landing pretty much where we want to. I don't know why I turned it off right there. There was no reason to turn it off. But yeah, here's another time when my heart started to skip beats, and I was sure that we were going to crash. But the game comes back and drops out and comes back. Because I believe at that time, yep, you can see over there on the left, I believe that the reason why it was having such problems was because of the impact. And now the Kraken decides it wanted to play with our ship. So as we're coming in for a landing, we get to see the two derelict crafts try their own escape trajectory. So I killed off all my horizontal momentum. I killed it off a little bit early, not when the suicide burn countdown told me to. So now I can just come down safely, vertically, with no problem. I'm just watching, and I'm wondering how far up those crafts are really going to go. And I bounced up a little bit, so I'm just trying to regain control. It's not too hard though, because I don't go too high in the air, or the space. So now those crafts are coming right back down. And everybody, all the Kerbals are just watching and waiting. And I don't really know what exploded there, but thankfully not everything. It just, the two pieces are there. And Dilkant Kerbin was very thankful he left those spaceships when he did, and he's now in the safety of the mobile processing lab. So now it's time to get our pilots. Like I mentioned in the previous episode, every single one of our pilots are here. In fact, we actually had to hire a pilot just to fly the rescue craft. So the rescue craft is going to be 3 pilots on their way home. And if we can't make it, then we lose every single one of our pilots. And we'll either have to hire a bunch more, or we're going to be stuck doing probe missions. So then we get our second one out. And so now, the people that are going to stay are Dilkant, the engineer, and our 2 scientists. Our scientists are going to be doing a bunch of science in the mobile processing lab and be sending it back to us. And so therefore we'll be able to gain a lot of science just passively from them studying the stuff. We may even send a rover here or another biome hopper, collect more science for them to work on, and just fully explore this planet, this celestial body. It's not a planet. I keep saying that. But anyways, we have our intrepid Kerbals ready. Everyone's strapped in. They've got their life support. That should last for about 1.5 years, 2 years. So, worst case scenario, if they do get stranded in space, that we have some time to rescue them. And now, not paying attention, I take off in the opposite way of which I wanted. I'm now going west instead of east. And now I'm plotting our escape burn, which is simultaneously also going to be lowering our periapsis close enough to Kerbin that when we do our capture burn, we will guarantee that we're coming home. So we say goodbye to our Minmus base. And for those of you who've been following this series for a while, you may recognize this audio track. And this audio track is what I use whenever there's a mishap, a possibility of absolute destruction. And this is the last episode in this part, so I'm not sure how this mission ends. So we're gonna throw on this beat and see what happens. And with little to no issue, we get our periapsis where we want it. We circularize around the planet, and we can see that we have enough fuel to do it. And it's very nice. I wouldn't say that we over-engineered this craft. In fact, I would say that we perfectly engineered this craft, because you will see how much fuel we have left, and you'll see how efficient we managed our maneuvers. And we're trying not to time warp too fast. Once again, we have the life support. If we end up missing our mark and getting sent back out to our apoapsis, you know, that's another 14 days out, 14 days back. But we have years worth of life supply. So when you end up playing with TAC life support, you end up just throwing on just so much, just because you don't want to risk floating around in space. Or in the case of our POV episode way back in the day, have to jettison one of your Kerbals in order to provide the other Kerbal with enough life support just to make it. That was a harrowing episode. If you want the brief synopsis of that, you can check my shorts. I made a short of that. It was actually the first one I ever made. Alright, so now we are capturing. And we are also at 66,000 meters above the surface. So we are technically in the atmosphere now. And with our periapsis in the atmosphere, that means that we are going to be coming home. How long it takes, that is its own question, but we are not going to be missing our landing. So as you see here, I have some red on my burn countdown, but it's also going down as well, and this is because we're in the atmosphere, so it's not exactly sure what to do. So I go ahead and I kill the flight computer because we don't need it, and it was putting our angle at a bad angle, so we just changed to our actual retrograde instead. Holding our breath and using the last of our fuel, because we have such a high apoapsis, there's no point in not burning it as low as possible. That being said, I don't want to go below 40 kilometers all that much, because that puts us at too bad of an angle. And now you can see we actually passed our apoapsis and we're back into low space. So out of fuel, we go ahead and jettison that lower stage. I activated the landing gear because I was afraid that it would smack our solar panels and possibly destroy them. And once again, rather than staging while facing retrograde, I pointed orbital out to stage it lower than myself, so we don't run any risk of hitting it as we come back through the atmosphere. And so before I know it, we made it past the flames, and we are coming down, but we are coming down on the dark side. And I'm worried about my parachutes. I don't want them to deploy too soon and rip off. And the parachutes deploy. 1,500 meters above. Coming down pretty fast, but also coming down safely. We freeze up a little bit before we hit the ground, and that makes my heart go into my throat again, thinking that we're about to crash. We come down pretty hard, but thankfully nothing destroys. And with that, we successfully rescued our pilots. The Minmus Mission Mishaps are no longer, and now it is the Minmus Mission Successes. We have scientists on the planet, on the celestial body. We have an engineer in case anything goes wrong or we need to fix anything. And we have 3 pilots to continue our space program. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this whole series and looking forward to more. There's going to be some KSP POV 2 soon, as well as a few tutorials. I think I might do a little how-to video, 1 or 2. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please consider giving me a like, drop me a comment, and I will see y'all in the next one. Take care.